All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, w- we have Luke Thomas at Winning Within.
Correct.
Welcome, and thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Before we were recording, we were talking about coaching. Um, you have a background in organizational psychology and an affinity for coaching, and I thought it would be interesting to see. So I'm also interested in coaching, and I thought it would be good to explore from what angles we view coaching, and yeah, what kind of methods and things of that nature. And for the listener, yeah, because I'm thinking, unless it's coaches listening here, I feel like maybe a big chunk might be coaching. Um, yeah, for the listener, this will be a coaching session from two coaches. So feel free to use the methods that resonate, and hopefully it can help with whatever you might be trying to change, or yeah, any changes you'd like to make. But let's see. I don't want to promise it's all going to be on that. We're going to see where it flows. Yeah. So, what from what angle do you view coaching, and what kind of methods are most exciting to you?
So I actually had one course in my master about coaching, and what fascinated then about it was that there were all sorts of models and methods you can use to engage in a coaching conversation, like a grow model or behavioral model or cognitive behavioral coaching. All sorts of models, systemic coaching, so more focusing on the family lines and all these kinds of things. So there's numerous approaches you can do in coaching, which makes it actually really interesting. Then again, it makes it also a little bit of vague field. What is the best thing you can do? What is better than another thing? Um, so I ended up creating my own sort of coaching style based on my experiences. But I think there's not one best coaching method out there. What are your thoughts on that, Orlando?
Mm, yeah. So the method that excites me the most is the something called the Demartini Method. The Demartini Method is something that is, in my opinion, very advanced with regards to the current uh, state of development of the field of psychology and coaching. Um, and while I think these models, I'm actually quite curious to see what how these models that you just mentioned, some of the like family systems and stuff like that, might interact with this method. But
Hmm.
this method works directly on perception, um, and it can be used for a variety of different things. A real like I actually can't think of anything it can't be used for. But to make it practical, the Demartini method can be extremely effective at reducing your attachment to particular outcomes. For example, so let's say there's a guy or a girl that you're interested in dating. Something that's very common is to have an attachment. You meet someone you like, and you want them, and there's a bit of a slight frenetic energy, and it actually gets in the way of getting what you want, of connecting. Um, and again, this could be for a job, it could be for connecting with a friend, like anything. Um, Yeah, I guess I'm kind of diving into the method here, and then we can go into other models and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. What is the thing that excites you the most about it? Because you've done it, you research it. I think you even put it into practice. What does it bring you to work with that method, and what does it bring the coachee, the one you're coaching?
Yeah, it gives the coachee freedom. It gives the coachee the ability, the power to really do what they want. To zoom in on that a little bit, everything that we experience is related to a given ratio of perceptions, which means an emotion, for example, like happiness, is nothing but a ratio of perceptions. We only feel positively about something because our brain's like a computer. It is a computer. And when we perceive anything positively, it means that the ones and zeros in the computer have computed and calculated based on the perception of the person with that computer that this is a net positive thing. So with an emotion like shame, for example, shame is an imbalanced ratio of perception. Shame means to the computer, I have done something that I have calculated is a net negative thing for me. Guilt means I've done something that in my perception is a net negative thing for someone else. With the method, you can change the ratio of perception. You can go to the event of perception. So usually when you're facilitating someone, you would invite them to shut their eyes. And if, let's say, they feel ashamed because they didn't prepare well for their presentation at school and all their friends did, then they are only feeling ashamed of it because their brain is perceiving that to not have prepared was a net negative thing for them. And maybe they feel some guilt too, which would mean that they perceive they've done a net negative thing for their friends. And this sounds like you might hear this and be like, well, what do you mean? That is a dick move if you don't prepare. That's a dick move. You let your team down. So maybe you should feel a bit ashamed, not because you're a bad guy, but because it's a reinforcer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like this could go a little too focused on the workings of the method. So just to sort of sum up what you can do with the shame, for example, and it could be resentment or it could be whatever. You would ask, well, go to the moment where and when you perceived yourself having let down your teammates, if that's what you're perceiving. Do you want to actually try this with something? If you have like an example that you would want to work on?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a current example currently, because what are good situations also for the viewer to use this method on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's a common thing? I think like letting yourself down on a goal, I guess, like failing at a goal would probably be something everyone can relate to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. For example, I wanted to make a YouTube video last week, and it didn't succeed at that, even though that's my weekly goal.
Okay, great. So go to the moment where and when you perceived yourself having not succeeded at your weekly goal of uploading your weekly YouTube video. Are you there?
I'm there.
Okay. What exactly are you experiencing? What's in your experience? What's in your perception?
There is guilt. There is a little bit of shame. There is a.
Okay. Great. Where does the guilt come from?
Of not prioritizing the video and.
Okay. if it's all right with you, I will be a little like with the method. Often, what happens is we tend to give a little bit more of a story than is needed for this particular method. And with this particular method, it's like very precise information. So just for the interest of efficiency, I'll just. Right. What was the benefit to you of not prioritizing the YouTube video?
Enjoying the sun, being with friends, relaxing.
Okay. Now, check into that guilt that you felt or maybe still feel.
Oh, well, after thinking about the sun and friends, I don't feel guilt anymore, honestly. But
okay, great. So, what else were you experiencing regarding not having uploaded that weekly video? You said, was it a bit of shame?
yeah, there's a little bit of shame, and there's also some fear or of am I able to execute on the goals and the tasks I set for myself?
Okay. All right. So in that moment, you perceived a fear of, perhaps this means that I'm not able to execute the goals that I set for myself, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for what reason would you be afraid of that?
I think some part of my identity and the trust in myself is also tied to whether I achieve my goals, yes or no.
Okay. Great. Go to a moment. It's tied to because. And by the way, we can do this for as long or as short as you feel comfortable. So
currently I feel comfortable, but you asked a deepening question. Cause what specifically?
Yeah, it's you said that a part of your identity is tied to the ability to achieve your goals, correct?
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Because what does it mean to you to be able to achieve your goals? What does it mean about you?
It means I'm capable. It means I'm self-controlled. Okay.
Great.
It means I'm able to organize my life. These kinds of things.
And if you were not able to achieve your goal?
Yeah, then I would judge myself.
Okay, go to a moment where and when you perceived yourself having not achieved your goal and you judged yourself for it.
I think then we're back to not posting the video, right?
Okay, it could be another moment.
Yeah, I'm thinking
it could be 20 years ago.
20, okay. Okay, I got something. Yeah.
Great. Where are you in this moment?
I was at not achieving one academic year in my bachelor degree. Okay. In my bachelor in psychology in Rotterdam. Yeah.
Not achieving your bachelor degree?
Yeah, like having it delayed by 1 year because I didn't have enough study points.
Go to that exact moment and be in the moment where you perceived your year was delayed for not having enough study points. And tell me when you're there.
I'm there.
Okay. In that moment where you're perceiving that your bachelor will be delayed because you don't have enough study points, how did it benefit you?
Very counterintuitive to think about, but how did it benefit me?
Yeah,
well, it created the space to, so that's retrospectively, it created a space for me to have the next year gaps in my study year, which I used to explore my interests, my capabilities, gain more experience via an internship and some other projects I took on.
Right. So can you see how getting the delay in your bachelor was actually directly contributing to you learning more about your interests, getting your internship?
Retrospectively, yes, I
Right.
can.
But when you're in that moment, because we're conditioned to believe that certain things are just good and certain things are just bad. So when some of these things happen that we've been conditioned to think are just good or bad, our brain fixates on the bad. So in that moment, your brain fixated on, oh, my study was delayed. My study must not be delayed because it's just a good thing to continue. But it seems like there was a benefit because you learned about yourself, you got an internship, and what was the other thing you said?
I took on some projects at the National Institute of Psychologists in the Netherlands. I would say though, this moment, I used that moment as like a wake-up call to take accountability, take control of my life. So it was a crucial moment though. If I didn't take this responsibility, retrospectively, it could have been a bad moment. So I think it was a crossway, basically.
And how has taking accountability and control been serving you and helping you from that moment until today?
Massively. It's massively. Every time I feel that I want something, or I think something is congruent with me, or when something is not serving me, I know I have the option, the control, the possibility, and the determination to make a different choice and to create a different context and situation for myself.
Mm-hmm. And if you go to that moment of perception where your study was delayed, how does it feel? What are you perceiving? Any kind of emotions? Strong, weak?
Well, I know that I noticed that I judged myself for not taking on the responsibility earlier, or
Okay.
not having that wake up call earlier.
Okay. What would have been the drawback? What was the benefit of taking accountability later rather than sooner? What would you have missed if you had taken accountability sooner?
What I missed? A lot of fun nights in my student years.
Okay. How and why is that important?
Well, I think that's important to develop myself socially, but also to, I think, know the influence that groups have on your own psychology. So when I was living in a student house, for example, where there was like a monoculture of viewing, drinking, partying, like a normal thing. And I feel like I had to really put in boundaries and to push back against that, and realize in the end I like social events, but I don't like alcohol. I don't want to engage too much in being too much part of a group that doesn't think autonomously.
Okay.
These kinds of things.
And
Yeah.
what's the benefit to you of having the awareness that you don't like to drink that much and you don't like to spend too much time with people who don't think autonomously?
Yeah, I think that's great because it further instills what my values are, what my identity is. The pushback I want to give on it is that there is a risk of being relativistic against a negative experience and saying, yeah, well, you can learn something from it. While you can also say it might actually be better to chase more positive experience, positive emotion, because that may already earlier create a positive feedback loop. Do you follow me?
No, I didn't follow.
So there's some research done in psychology, in positive psychology. It's called the broaden and build theory, which basically says that the more positive emotion you create in your life, the more positive people come your way, the more positive experience you get, and in the end you might even build social resources, emotional resources, financial resources, which further enact this cycle of positivity creates positivity. So even though I think it's good to see the worth in negative experience, I am a little bit more is maybe a little bit cynical about learning, creating or focusing too much on negative experiences as a way of being better, even though they retrospectively again they are very helpful.
Okay, so it sounds like overall it's still a negative experience for you.
I sometimes think, how would my life have been if I didn't create these experiences for myself? And I do realize I make the most of these things after they happen, and I learn a lot from them. And I think with a lot of, because I do a lot of career coaching as well, there isn't really a bad decision. That's what I like to tell people, because after making the choice, you find out you like something or you find out you don't like something, and both are insightful. Then again, I think it's even more beneficial to make the right decision for you the first time. Looking to the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, ultimately, there's no wrong decision, and at the same time, that doesn't mean just make your decisions mindlessly and don't think, because nothing matters. Even though ultimately, technically, those decisions would not be wrong, but you don't want to be like a crazy person, a crazy, I'm just making my decisions completely blind and.
Yeah, but maybe to conclude on the Demartini method, what I notice is that you, it really goes deep, and it doesn't really stop, like you say. So you peel back the layers, if you will, and it constantly lets you think, hey, how does this benefit me, and what does it cost me? And it does, the thinking about these events in this way does bring insight.
What kind of insights? You mean the benefits you hadn't thought of?
Yeah, the benefits and what it costs you, because we tend to look at these things as solely bad things, but if you haven't like really I think I've processed, as a psychologist, I've processed these kind of moments quite well. So for me, these things might be obvious, that I like autonomy in my thinking, I like to be on myself, I like to work on myself, etc., etc. But I think for a lot of people, it's good to think back to an event which you maybe haven't processed fully, and apart from looking where it has only been a negative in your life, how did it contribute to your life story, what you value, how it formed your character? These are very foundational questions you can ask to distill this identity for yourself.
Yeah, totally. Very useful questions. And I'm glad you also mentioned the cost, because I don't want the listeners to think, this is a way of deluding yourself that everything's good. So anytime something bad happens or something you're perceiving as bad, it's all good. and all the good things are good, everything's good.
Yeah.
That's not what the method is. Because the method would also offer the opportunity for you to balance your perceptions of the good stuff. So if you feel very charged about something and you're like, this thing that happened was amazing, it can be very useful and helpful to you for your brain, to balance your charge. The more you balance your perceptions, positive or negative, such that they get to as close to neutrality as possible, and you see the cost of the good stuff and the benefit of the bad stuff, the more you come out of your amygdala, which is the fear center, for the listeners, and the more you move into the medial prefrontal cortex, which is the genius part of your brain. So the more you're in your amygdala and the more you have imbalance, the more you're judging stuff as good and bad, the more you are in the part of your brain that operates in order to ensure survival. And we have another part of the brain that operates to ensure thrival. So the method ultimately is to get you into the part of the brain that's the most sophisticated part, that controls decision making, that controls future planning, and that is responsible for deploying your genius.
Just to add on to that, I think there are people that think too much about their problems, and there are people that don't think too much about the problem, and both are ineffective. Because if you're constantly thinking about, oh, I had this experience and it was a bad experience, and because I had I postponed my study for a year, I'm behind the ball, that's bad. But not thinking too much about it, from, hey, what did I learn from it? Okay, I value taking control of my life, is also not good enough, because then you're basically steerless and you're, like you pointed out, just going through life fully unconscious. I think it's really about balancing thinking too much and thinking not enough, to where it is an effective amount of thinking about these things. In psychology, they have also a distinction about how to relieve stress. You can focus on the emotion, or you can focus on the problem. So the emotion is, oh, I'm focusing on the fear. What does the fear mean? Maybe I can relax the fear. And there is, hey, why do I have this fear, and how can I relieve the fear by doing something in the outer world? And I think it's good to think back to, hey, what do I get from this experience? What is my reflection about these things? And then going to the future, thinking, oh, how can I use this insight I got from this situation to now be more effective at dealing with problems and relieving stress that way. That way you're also away from your amygdala, but that's actually precisely the part you're pointing to in the brain.
Right, so anticipating problems, like contingencies. Maybe I didn't. You said feel the stress or feel the fear, and then do something in your outer world.
Yeah. So, for example, if you have like an exam coming up, you can. Some people are like, oh, I feel fear, and it's because I have a trauma of not like getting a good grade when I was 5 years old, for example. And they try to think about, oh, maybe if I think more about my previous situation or this situation, the stress will be relieved. And this is emotion-focused coping. And I say emotion focus is effective only when you think about the situation and think, hey, what lesson can I draw from this situation? And then something could be like, oh, I am a person that needs to start early for exams, otherwise I get stress already. And that's basically your blueprint by then. So if you don't take the lesson, you might be very stressful even though when you just think, oh, okay, I have the insight that maybe I need to start 1 week earlier than other people, even though I do maybe the same amount of effort. Okay, let's put that in my schedule. Let's plan that. And then you will see that the stress will be relieved.
Mm-hmm.
This is according to what the academic psychology says about how to deal with stress and move to effective state of being.
Yeah, so often we're just ruminating, and it feels like we're like solving the problem, kinda. It feels like we're not. We're just like the way I like to think of it is like the mind can be like a washing machine, and when you can have all kinds of thoughts, but when you're more observant, you're not inside it, and when you're ruminating, you're essentially saying, I'm just gonna go in the washing machine. Fuck it. I'll just do like 10 minutes of this and go around.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So what is the insight, and how can I apply this right now? For me, that's also been the most effective way how to deal with stress and negative emotions. Negative emotion.
Yeah, I guess maybe the brain is producing these thoughts as a way to invite you to extract that insight.
Yeah, I think that is said quite. Yeah, that I think you're onto something with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would make sense because if let's say, yeah, maybe it's your brain trying to wake you up. It's like let's say you fail an exam and it was an important exam, and your brain's like, that's important. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. And since you haven't yet extracted the insight, it's like, it's not going to be like, hey, by the way, Billy. Hey, Billy. It doesn't speak like that. Hey, Billy.
No.
By the way, good sir, I would just like to inform you that your strategy in studying was suboptimal. Next time you should focus on these chapters and prioritize that rather than partying.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe in the future, when we have like a connection to the brain, we can extract that conversation and make it. But for now, we will have like an emotion like guilt, shame, insecurity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we can just change it. We got different voices. You can have a man, woman, different like
Yeah,
accents.
whatever makes you feel comfortable.
G'day, mate. You should have studied more, mate.
Yeah.
Let's go into navigation. Let's navigate that way, and
Yeah, for sure.
and then maybe we can go back into coaching.
Yeah, I like the navigation part because I've been very active in thinking about that topic a lot. So for sure, let's do it.
Great. Well, what would you say are the principles that you've learned about how to navigate your life, let's say your personal and professional life, that stand out as the most important principles?
I think the most important thing to navigate your life is knowing yourself. Even the Greeks said it that way: know thyself. But what does that actually mean? I think that's the most foundational thing. And then the second part is like dealing with your environment, which may be different than what you want from life, and can be distracting, can be pulling you in a way that is not authentic with who you are. But usually when you know yourself 100%, then it's way more easy to like push back on the environment. So I think know thyself. What does it mean? Knowing what strengths you have, knowing what interests you have, know what values you have, know what formational experience you had in your youth or your adolescence that made you find something meaningful, know what kinds of environments you flourish in. All these things are pieces of the puzzle of knowing yourself.
And if someone's listening and thinking, I don't really know myself that well, and I think I'd like to start getting to know myself better, where would you suggest they start?
Maybe a few questions that you can ask yourself. I would highly recommend also writing these things down. When I was about 19, 20, I also wrote all these things down in a document, and I even pondered about these questions for sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes an hour. I sat down just to really try to think, for example, to the question, what change would I like to see in the world? That's one question. What do I find meaningful? Or what am I good at based on the experiences in my youth, maybe a certain sports you did, what were your specific strengths, to really try to distill those. It can also be very beneficial to ask people around you, your parents, your brother, your sister, your best friends, a teacher, a coach of a football team, whatever, to ask them, could you please name my 3 strengths and why? And if you feel free, also give me some feedback on what I'm not good at or what I can improve. And what is really beneficial is when you have done the exercise yourself. So you have a list of like 5 strengths you think you're good at, and you try to see that other people also point into that direction. And these data points basically start to converge. And the more they converge, the more they are probably true for you.
Mm-hmm.
And strengths is just one thing, but also interests or values are all pieces of the puzzle. Personality can be a thing. And then I think this is building a blueprint or a roadmap to get more light in the room, to know where you are, who you are, and to find your way that way.
Yeah, until you have an understanding of who you are, or at least a better, because I don't know if you could ever really say, I understand myself. Or you could say it. I mean, when I say that, I don't mean, it's endless.
Yes and no. I think there are some real quick gains to be made. So, for example, if you know your strengths more or less, that's better than not knowing them at all. And indeed, you can deepen everything to you're at the center of the earth, basically that deep. But I think the most quick gains for people wanting to do it right now is just asking these questions to yourself and to your peers, and already like having way more clarity that way. Do you agree with that, or?
For sure. Yeah, I think my comment was a bit too philosophical.
Yeah.
I just meant that there will never really be a point where you're like, there's absolutely nothing more I can understand about myself. But again, it's a bit too philosophical.
But I get what you mean. Yeah. The point, you can always explore more about yourself and gain deeper insight.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
But practically speaking, yes, I agree. Maybe making a document and just having it like strengths, what I find meaningful, etc., and then adding to it as time goes on. Great exercise. Yeah, and then maybe also weaknesses, because it's not just about like being like, oh yeah, I've got all these strengths, but I'm unaware of my weaknesses.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, it's if you don't think you have weaknesses, then your weakness might be narcissism or something.
Yeah, being blind. Yeah, but we're all blind to a certain extent. Again, philosophical, but
yeah. Got it.
cool. Yeah.
Do you have any? Because with the Demartini method, you asked me some questions. Is there anything you want to explore with me that's personal, or you want to more for the viewer explore more general topics?
I'd be more than happy to explore more with the method if you want. Yeah.
So can we do then something about navigating your life? That I'll ask you some questions. Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Is there anything you want to have more clarity on currently?
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of profession,
Yeah.
and the avenues that I would like to select for professional endeavors, for how to earn money, essentially.
Yeah. And so what is clear about that already, and what isn't clear about that?
What's clear to me is that I love coaching. I also love using creativity. What else is clear? Yeah. Yeah, I want to use my creativity and I want to coach people. And what's unclear is how to use my creativity. I know that I like strategy. And at the same time, I'm not sure how I could use strategy in order. Actually, now I'm thinking of it, I would very much like to do consulting for that part. I'm not entirely clear on what types of companies, but I would like to work on strategy.
And what defines strategy for me, and why is strategy relevant for you?
Marketing strategy. I think I mean definitely that, but I'm not sure if exclusively. Yeah, marketing strategy.
Okay, I find it difficult to unify that with coaching and
Yeah. I think it would be a separate thing. I like the coaching. I like I love doing the one-on-one. I would also really like to move into groups, to doing groups, and teach both the method and also yeah, just what I've learned from my experience about life, about how to navigate life. I would really like to do groups. I'm just not sure how to market it. I think I could probably create like the content, but the marketing I'm not sure, which is ironic because I'm like I wanna consult. Yeah, I think maybe I don't want to, like, because I'm not a marketing expert, but I like strategy, and I feel like I can think in a creative way that not everyone does. So yeah, I would like to use that.
yeah. Interesting. What we currently talk about are things that you find interesting, things you want to do. So I think that's better than the average person. It's also good to think about, hey, what are situations that I'm at my best? because we might like things, but maybe we're not so good at them. Not saying you're bad at these things, but also it feels very good to do things that you're naturally good at. So what are you naturally good at? Am I curious about?
Acting, improvising.
Improvising.
Yeah, speaking in general. I'm a good public speaker. Writing. Rapping.
Rapping or yapping?
Yapping too, I guess. Yeah, making connections, making abstract connections, and also metaphors, which is part of that, but also separate.
So I think with these skills, like I would see you working with groups, because that's a lot of improvising and building connections and public speaking. But just for my curiosity, what are things that you're not so talented in, or
Technology, planning. What am I not so good at? Yeah, I tend to do things last minute, which is, I guess, part planning.
Okay, but and how does planning and doing things last minute tie into strategy?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not. I guess I would be good at planning if I did it, but I don't. I seldom do it. I do it last minute.
It's not natural behavior for you.
No, it's not an automatic thing where I'm like, I'm gonna plan this. Like my podcast, for example, most of them I don't. Yeah, I don't really plan. I like to go off the cuff, and I think that's good in a way because it allows it to flow. And at the same time, it would be probably good for me to do some planning. I'm probably missing out on some stuff. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. And then also like professional etiquette, I'm not that good at. Professional communication, etiquette, things like that. I'm a little bit outside my element.
Okay. So this can means that like in more corporate environments, you wouldn't be, you had to turn on like behavior to be formal, presentable, a little bit more stiff. So I wouldn't, I would see you probably work more with startups that are more loosely planned than like a very formal, solid, but also stiff organization.
Yep, that resonates.
Any other thoughts or questions or advices you are looking for?
Yeah, I guess priority. I'm not sure what the priority is at the moment.
What does that bring you to not have a priority?
Nice. What does it bring me? I guess I'm just acting spontaneously, which is helping me to understand myself better. Because I wouldn't do something spontaneously that I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe it's laying a good foundation for me to gain the self-awareness of being like, okay, these are the things I do spontaneously. Okay, now I'm at the point where I want to prioritize for whatever reason, and then I will prioritize this, and that. Yeah, I think I'm also thinking like I want to make money, and that's in my mind of like something that's a bit of a priority.
Okay, yeah. One other thought I just drop in for you, might resonate, might not be, is that a planning might also take away from feeling of freedom.
Damn. Fuck. That resonates. So then I would ask myself, in what way would planning give me freedom? And the way it would give me freedom is that it's nice to do things spontaneously. And at the same time, if you want to move forward in a particular area of life, planning and prioritizing will really help you get there. Whereas the spontaneous doing whatever you feel in the moment likely will stall. So I get the freedom because by planning, I can have what I want quicker in a more because I'll be acting in a more focused way. Yeah, thanks for asking that.
For sure. Enough to ponder on, or?
Yeah, we can move forward.
Yeah, for sure. But feel free to ask me any more questions, or if you want me to continue, that's also okay. Whatever is.
Yeah, I mean, we could just coach each other for this. Two coaches coaching and being coachees.
Maybe to wrap up for the viewer, the conversation, Orlando, and I just delves into a couple of things. Orlando obviously has more or less an idea. It is a little bit unstructured or not prioritized. And what people find really difficult is also to connect what your interests, what is meaningful, what are your strengths, and attach it to a certain environment. That's usually very difficult for people, because people are taught from as they are young, like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be, well, maybe currently it's like being an influencer. But they rarely attach it to the context or in the environment. So if you want to be a doctor in a big hospital or a small hospital, you want to be astronaut is maybe not a good word, but seldom do people think, if they, for example, want to be a lawyer, do they want to work at a really big international corporate company, or more a niche specialized company, or a more a law company that's focused on more societal fairness. This part is rarely thought about, and it's also difficult because it usually comes after thinking of what you find interesting, what you value, and then only trying to connect that to the context or of a company or a project, etc.
So are you suggesting to pick the environment first?
I think it's really important to first build your inner compass to know what you kind of value, kind of like, what you're effective in, and then only try to look at every career step, every company as and rate it on different variables. So, for example, for you might be one, what kind of people would I consult? What kind of culture is there? Does that connect to my way of communication, or is that too far off? Maybe the public speaking is there, maybe the marketing is there, the strategy is there, the creativity is there, everything is there, but the fit with their communication style isn't there. And then you can ask, right, is that then a fit? Because that has a 9 on a lot of criteria I find important, but maybe a 2 on another one. That's still, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And maybe, yeah, that's it. That's how I like to, because I do assessment psychology, and I use a lot of data points to assess what people like. I try to view it as in this way.
Nice. Yeah. On top of it, when you pick the environment, then you can have a picture in your mind. Whereas if you're like, I want to be a speaker, then it's like, what are you picturing? You know, it can be a bit nebulous. Whereas if you think, I want to be a speaker at a school or something, then you've created an image in your mind of you speaking at a school, and then your mind can think of that.
It's way more concretely.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just thinking of like how we could structure this. How do you feel about just doing coaching each other throughout the podcast?
I prefer more to talk about things that might be important for the viewer.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the idea was not that it would be exclusively beneficial to us. Otherwise, we could just do this on a regular call. I thought that that maybe they could benefit from it. But yeah, I'm happy to move to something else.
Okay.
Is there anything that
maybe because we met each other one week ago about shadow psychology, maybe we can wrap up with that topic. I think that's for the last part would be nice. I think. Do you agree with that?
Yep, 100%. Great.
So you were talking about with this guy in the sauna, and you were agreeing with him because I think you talked about you were both talking about shadow psychology, and the one person, maybe it was you, said, hey, when you detest something about someone that's actually in yourself, and it says something about yourself, and it's a portal basically to look into yourself and get knowledge about yourself. And the other guy said, no, but I think it's more important to look at what you admire in people, because there is the most important insight. I think that's when I walked into that chat.
Right. Yeah. So we were saying, exactly, we tend to judge other people. And yeah, in shadow work, shadow psychology, the idea is that whenever you judge anyone, you're judging yourself. And the reason for that is, have you noticed that if someone does something that you know you do, you're not looking at them like, what a piece of shit? If you own that you do a certain thing, and maybe it's something that's judged by society, but you know that you do it, and you see someone else do it, would it be reasonable for you to be like, that guy's a dick? Because you're like, no, I do it too. And so I was suggesting to him, that I was telling him that shadow psychology suggests that we are just mirrors of each other. So you cannot possibly perceive something in someone else that you do not have yourself. It's you, it's life showing you to you.
Yeah. It's a projection as well. So do you use this on a daily basis, this shadow psychology, or and how do you implement it?
So if I notice a charge within me, a positive or negative charge, then I have the opportunity to, doesn't mean I do it with every charge, but I have the opportunity to look for the balance. So it can work with small or big charges. It can be something as small as, and it can be someone else, or it can be something you do. Like if I spill my coffee or something, I can ask, what was the benefit of that? And I know that when you listen to this and you're not familiar with maybe the Demartini Method or something like that, it sounds kind of like silly. Like, what do you mean? And actually, I may be converging a couple of things here. So let's stick with the people. If someone, for example, does something and I don't like it, then I'm experiencing a negative charge. And again, listening to this, you will likely experience resistance to the idea of this. Very, very likely experience resistance to this.
Yeah.
When someone does something you don't like and you feel resistant to that idea, maybe you're like, oh, that guy's a dick, that girl's a dick. The only reason that you experience that charge is because your unconscious has separated that action from your conscious awareness. And the reason this happens is because when we grow up as children, our parents, our school teachers, kids, mostly parents because they're our most influential figures, they do not accept everything. We are taught certain things are good and certain things are bad. So it could be whatever, playing a certain way, speaking too loudly, whatever, and then we're taught that's bad. And the more we're sort of punished for it, and the punishment can come in whatever form, the more we learn this is not acceptable. I need to not do this in order to get my parents' love.
Yeah, it's conditional.
So, since we cannot separate that action from our being, we can't separate a part of us from us because we're whole beings, we just separate it from our conscious awareness. And our unconscious says, I cannot accept the fact that I am this way because the formula I've created for getting love contains the absence of this action. And since I'm a whole being that cannot separate any part of myself from myself, what I will do is just separate it from my conscious awareness.
Where is it then?
Good question.
In the shadow.
In the shadow, there we go.
Yeah. I think that's why it's got the name the shadow, because it's still part of you, but it's like hiding in the shadow, and it then becomes an unconscious force. So you can't, like you say, you can't amputate like a part of your personality. It will try to express itself, but just unconsciously. And maybe people have these erratic behaviors every once in a while, and they'll think, why do I keep doing this? Because that's like the unconscious force that just tries to find its way in expression.
Trying to find its way into expression, you said? So what would you say is the sort of the drawback? What's the consequence of having these things in your shadow?
Really good question. Well, are you fully authentic if you put these things in your shadow?
Yeah, I guess you would not be able to be as authentic. Yeah. Because you'd be doing all these things anyway, even though you'd be completely adamant that you're not, because you don't see it because it's in the shadow. But yeah, they would be in ways you don't control.
And as well to add on to that, usually when you try and create the space for this shadow to be a part of your life, it will transform into something differently, less destructive, because it's conscious, and you basically make a deal with this shadow part, and therefore it expresses itself in a way more sustainable and healthy way. And it's also closer to who you are as a person.
Yeah, that makes it makes sense to me. Because if you own it, then you're deciding when you do it.
Yeah. And there's obviously a lot of shame, unconsciously or consciously, or denial involved, which will just create it will create tension in your body as well.
Shame and denial about having that which is in the shadow in the shadow. Why is there shame around it?
Because you deny it about yourself. It's not a part of you, and when it expresses itself, it's unconscious only to a certain extent. So maybe you're aware of it at some point and you feel shameful, and then you try to put it back into the underworld. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, then it would seem that in order to release shame and thereby increase your self-worth, you would have to own certain things that wouldn't be comfortable owning.
Exactly.
I just gulped.
I didn't notice.
No, yeah. And what do you think? What do you suppose would be the effects of integrating the shadow like that, and owning the part of yourself that you had in the shadow, and back into conscious awareness?
I think what you said is your self-worth will grow like tremendously when you do it. There's a lot less shame about yourself. There's a lot less tension in your body. It's just you just living your life. You're expressing yourself, and it creates us as well a lot more kindness towards yourself if you're able to do it. It can also create more sympathy and empathy for other people.
Or empathy, right? I don't know about.
Yeah, sympathy is more logic, empathy is more feeling. So both are trying to understand the person.
Yeah, it's a heavy subject as well. It's a yeah. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if listeners listening and thinking, yeah, it sounds like an uncomfortable endeavor to do this.
It's definitely uncomfortable. Yeah. So what I noticed the first time that I encountered this topic is that I would find it very confronting uncomfortable, and it didn't make my life better, like directly. Only when I started to balance more of, oh, how can I integrate this shadow? Which was for me at not trying to judge myself too much and trying to see the humor as well in these kinds of things. And just like, oh, okay, that's also a part of myself. Okay, that's all right. And just laughing at it, basically, with kindness. I think that brought me more than the conceptual understanding of it as a whole. It's more the attitude which integrated than the understanding of it.
The attitude integrated the understanding. The attitude of accepting.
Yeah, the attitude of accepting, laughing, being kind towards the things that you are less proud about yourself.
And how do you actually integrate it? If there's a thing that you're like, okay, I want to integrate this part of my shadow, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, again, I think the maturity is in being able to, when it rises, not be defensive or being in denial of yourself, just being kind towards these parts of yourself. Like, oh, I think this is a part of who I am. And not try to give it too much rumination, judgment, or trying to change it. Is that the same for you, or is it different?
So I use the Demartini Method.
Okay, yeah.
And then you would go to a moment, and it's you would go to moments of perception, and yeah, it's also like you can have quite a lot of resistance, because if you say like go to a moment, if you identify as someone who doesn't lie, and you're like adamant, I don't lie, then there can be quite a lot of resistance from the ego if you're like, okay, go to a moment where you lied. And maybe lying is not a great example, because I think probably everyone listening is like, yeah, I lie sometimes. But maybe something that would be harder to accept about yourself, there would be more resistance. But yeah, you would just say, okay, go to a moment where and when you do it with yourself, and you're like, okay. And maybe, yeah, when you perceived yourself having done this thing, this action, or this whatever that you consider bad. And it can come in different forms as well. It's not always the same form. And then, yeah, it's about kind of locking in that the memory, and being conscious in that experience of, oh yeah, here I was in school lying. Yeah, fuck, that's right.
I would say something like, I'm such a filthy liar.
Right.
And then like laughing at it and like, oh yeah, that is a part of me. And okay, that's okay. And it's actually quite funny. And I thought I was not a lie, but I sometimes am. And apparently that's a part of me. And because you laugh at it and you're like, oh, then you release the negative charge of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Such a little liar. Yeah, like as if you're teasing your child. You know, you're like, you little liar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. but we're not always prepared for, I guess obvious reasons to look in the shadow.
Gaze into the abyss.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who are open to it, then they can maybe dive into that. And for those who are not, maybe we can do a little bit more on, maybe some of those coaching models.
I'm a little bit short on time, so maybe we can work towards an ending that would be still doable, but maybe another time we can delve into more coaching models.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Well,
maybe summarize for the people what we spoke about. Demartini Method, looking at good and bad experiences through what's positive about them and what's negative about them, and what were the consequences and the lessons you can take from them. Then we spoke about how to integrate these negative experiences for the future through like, oh, this is the lesson and this is how I can apply it directly into my life to relieve stress. And then we spoke about navigating your life through knowing yourself and trying to find a match with the environment, basically. And then we ended with the shadow.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Great. All right. Well, I hope you guys got something from that, and take whatever resonates and explore as you will. And Louk, it was a pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. Maybe another time.
We'll do that. We'll make it work.